Welcome back to the Smokin Layups podcast. I'm your host, Joey O, here with my co-host, Jack.
What up?
All right, today we've got some Tuesday takeaways for y'all after a nice weekend of games. First things first, Jack, I'm going to give you the floor here. What's one takeaway you got for us this Tuesday?
My one takeaway. Let's go. The Blazers are not tanking. That is the takeaway. Blazers are a no tank Trailblazers this season. I've changed my mind. I made some assumptions early on preseason based off of what I thought was going on last year, where other teams are at this year. But that's my takeaway. The Blazers are going to fight.
Awesome. That takeaway, that actually leads into mine real well. I was thinking about how none of the teams that we thought were going to tank, nobody seems to be tanking yet. The race to the bottom for Wembanyama and Scoot Henderson has not kicked off just yet.
I would agree with that. However, there is one team that at least has a head start over everybody, and there's honestly like one or two other teams that also kind of have a better starting position than others. Like obviously, Utah, they have started the season well, but they will regress. So they're at some point we will be talking about them a different way. But congrats to Utah, way to start off the season right. But the Magic, unfortunately, you were high on them. They're 0-4. I think they are the worst team in basketball right now. And I mean, I agree. The tank race hasn't really begun because there are too many teams that should be tanking that have yet to get to that point. But man, the Magic are right there too, and they are 0-4. So, if anything, they definitely have a head start. But I mean, really, you just have to be bad enough to get your name thrown in the hat. You don't have to be the absolute worst, but hey, 0-4 helps.
That's an excellent point. I will say the Magic, they've been dealing with several injuries. I have not given up on them yet. And especially they just got so many dudes where I feel like when they get some of their guys back and some of these other teams are really tanking, we will see them start to win a lot more games.
Well, hopefully so, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah. Another excellent point you kind of brought up is like these teams aren't tanking yet, but I think that might be they're trying to show that their pieces, their non-young guy pieces, are still valuable NBA players, so they can trade them and really commit to the tank. Like in Utah, I've seen so many jokes on Twitter and whatnot of Danny Ainge being upset that his team is so good, and he's gonna have to like Lauri Markkanen and is playing his way out of Utah right now. A contender should go get that guy. He's been playing super well. Guys like Josh Richardson come to mind. Any of these vets who don't match the timetable of these younger teams, or even over in Indiana, we've got guys like Hield and Turner who don't really fit the Halliburton timeline.
Mm-hmm. It will be interesting to see what happens with Buddy Hield. I don't know. I like him. He's just one of those players. It seems like he could you put him in the right system, he could consistently give you 4 or 5 threes a night. I don't care if he's taking like 12. I mean, right now, who is it? Max Strus for Miami. That guy takes about 10 shots a game, and at least 8 of them are threes. I I'm not saying Buddy Hield is Max Strus, but hey, I I really like Buddy Hield. I don't know where I was going, but you brought him up, and I like him, so had to give him a little shout out.
Awesome. You're making an excellent point. A lot of these guys, they like just get them on a better, more winning situation. A team like the Lakers really comes to mind as a team who is severely
Oh
missing
yeah.
missing some
Oh
depth,
yeah.
and they really need some more pieces. And so, I personally, I'm a LeBron guy. I've always been a big fan of his. I wouldn't say he's my favorite player because that's definitely a bit basic. But I was always rooting for LeBron in the finals against the Warriors and whatnot because I thought Steph Curry was a little softy back in the day. Steph's definitely gained more of my respect, and then it was easy to root against the KD Warriors, of course. All in that. Also, I love LeBron for the player agency. I think that's so awesome. I think he's created a whole new world of players changing teams, which I personally love. I love seeing the new combinations of dudes, people getting to take on new roles on new teams and whatnot. I love the player empowerment era that he really kicked off just by um, just by exercising his right as a free agent. But that being said, it's really sad for me to see him just toil in LA with a terrible team that is seemingly built from a bygone era. They're just not a team that is designed to play around LeBron James.
Yeah, that's it's definitely a tough one over there. He's got a lot more to give, and I don't know. Not sure where. I'm not sure if the sky is the limit. I don't know where the limit is for him and the Lakers. There's a lot of problems, but I'm I'm not a LeBron lover, not a LeBron hater. At this point, um, I want to see him reach a few more milestones. I think I'm at the point where I'm way past, is LeBron better than MJ, or is MJ better than LeBron, or this or that. I want to see what he can still achieve given his age, what he's already achieved, and just enjoy what he gives us.
Yeah, love LeBron. So on to the next thing I want to talk about real quick. I sent you this earlier, but a really important stat to me is point differential, especially as someone who's kind of looking at basketball as like a gambling perspective. I think it's really important to be looking at like on an average over not necessarily over 100 possessions, but over the course of a game, 48 minutes, how much does this team outscore this other team by? And there were some really cool takeaways from that, including there's some disparities between some teams have great point differentials, but do not have the record to match, or they have a great record and don't have the point differential to match, which I think that stuff is really interesting and how it'll play out over the course of the year. Some things I wanted to go over real quick about that. Dallas right now is far and away by 6.5 points. I'll get granted they've only played 2 games, but by 6.5 points, they are currently the best team by point differential. If not for the second half collapse against Phoenix, that number would be above 20. And we would be talking about them like like the juggernaut they might be. Christian Wood is averaging 25 points per game in only 24 minutes a game on 50% shooting from three. He is such a perfect player next to Luka. I also love they have JaVale in there for some toughness and just traditional rim running. I think they've got a squad. They were a great defense last year. It's a great team. Another really interesting, the next section down of the point differential was 3 Eastern Conference teams. The Cavaliers of Cleveland, all without DG, which that is just a scary squad. Donovan Mitchell's averaged over 30 points a game, and they look good. They look good. Another team in that same bracket is the Knicks. Well, I mean, you know me, I'm a New York Knicks hater. New York hater and a Knicks hater all in one. And I've just been blown away. That I thought that Jalen Brunson deal was terrible, but he's been great. That team has performed well at home. They're taking care of the Garden, which was something we talked about in our first podcast. They are a team that people love to play there. So people get up to go for their road games in New York. So that is not a easy home court advantage. They have been playing great. We'll see how that continues, but they've been playing great so far. Another really interesting team in that category is the Pelicans. The Pelicans are actually leading the Western Conference in plus minus, point differential, but that's gonna wax for a little bit because obviously with Zion and Brandon Ingram out, they are not the same team. Another really interesting group. So this stat is obviously flawed this early in the season because a team like the Celtics is 3-1, but they only have a +1 point differential because of the ass whooping they received last night at the hand of the Bulls. And then another really interesting one is our bottom group. I'm gonna list these names for you. So there's the teams that everyone would expect, right? So we've got the Pistons, and this group is point differential anywhere from anywhere worse than -6. So this group includes teams you would expect, right? The Pistons, the Thunder, the Rockets, the Magic. Yeah. So we got those 4 teams, but there's another 4 teams in this group, and those teams are all teams that, at least from the common perception, are much higher. These teams are the Lakers are in this group, the Nuggets are in this group, and the Nets are in this group. Which all 3 of those teams came in with, well, except for the Lakers, they all came in with great talent, and then all 3 of them came in with high expectations, and they are just not playing up to snuff right now. And to me, that comes down to defense, because all of these teams have been scoring fine. They are just not stopping anybody at the moment.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's it. I mean, everybody always acts like NBA players don't care about defense in the regular season, so they can save it for the postseason, ramp it up, maybe a little bit. But I've always thought, well, I'm not the kind of guy that just thinks it's okay to waste a game or lose a game, because if you waste too many, they come back and get you right at the end of the season when you think, oh, if we could have just had 2 or 3 more wins, we'd be in a different spot. So every game matters to me. That means that playing defense every game matters. And that goes to what you're saying. I mean, a few of these teams that should be better with bad point differentials and the defense, I mean, they're just not going to. If you don't play good defense, then you are making it much harder on yourself to win. With the Lakers, they just can't shoot the ball well at all. Like I think they're just in the worst bottom part of 3-point efficiency and probably just regular jump shot efficiency outside the lane. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about the jump shot efficiency, but I know they're only throwing bricks at the backboard when they're tossing up threes. The Nuggets are a little surprising. I don't really understand why their defense has been as bad. I mean, I'm not going to say I thought they're going to be good defensively going into the year. I just don't get why they've been that bad. I need to do a little more research on them.
I can tell you why they've been that bad.
Yeah, let me know.
Well, let's think about their starting lineup, right? They've got 1+ defender out there, I think, in KCP. And he's just a solid wing defender. I wouldn't say he's a stopper by any means. He's a guy that is going to hold his own defensively and be a solid defender even. But he's not Kawhi out there. He's never made an all-defensive team, but he's a really good prototypical 3-and-D wing. And then they also start Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and Nikola Jokic. None of those dudes are good defensive players. Not
Yeah,
saying
but
they're bad, but two of them are coming off
it's
injury, and they don't have a great defensive identity to lean on.
I mean, fair enough. I just think they have good enough coaching, good enough playmakers on the floor that can adjust tempo in game to cater how they want to play. That they're a team that should revert back a little bit towards being, better. Like they're not as bad defensively as they have let on. But that's the main reason that their differential is down there because they've just been giving up points like, they're just free. And that has to stop. I, they at a certain point, the Nuggets are going to have to say, okay, we're going to have to bow up on defense at least a little bit if we want to consistently win. Um, I mean, with you said the Lakers, the Nuggets. Who are those other surprising teams that
Uh,
you mentioned? The Nets.
I miscounted.
Okay.
It was only the Nets. I believe that group only
Okay.
had 7. So it was those
All right.
four
Well.
teams we expected at the bottom,
Mhm.
and then those 3 teams with honestly 3 of the 5 best, maybe not 3 of the 5 best, 3 of the 7 best players in the league between Braun, KD, and Jokic. That's a lot of MVPs right
Yeah,
there to be in that bottom group.
it's true. One thing about the Nets is they were when they were like even blowing people out the past like 3 years, that's when they still had like James Harden and they had a healthy Joe Harris and other guys too. I mean, they are way thinner now. A lot of what they banked on is Ben Simmons doing something for them. I I will stop saying it at some point, but today is not the day. The guy should be capable of more than he's putting up, so he needs to do so. But right now, I mean, with them being top heavy, I mean, their two best players scored over 30 points last night, and they still lost to Memphis. Not saying that that should have been an easy win, but that's why the Nets are where they're at because they're going to have their two best players put up near 40 a game if Ben Simmons doesn't score at least 15. Now, Seth Curry had a really good game, I think, 2 games ago. But still, like, are you telling me that you got Seth Curry, Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and then 10-point Ben Simmons, and that's who's going to go beat these other deep, deep teams? No. The Nets are going to win because we've said it. They just have this sort of unicorn kind of offense that they're capable of putting together, but they're going to have to figure it out. They have not figured it out. And clearly, having two people score near 40 points is not good enough. I'm wondering if they're going to be able to make the necessary changes. I'm going to give the Nets about one more week. Not going to say anything else about them. And then I think we'll have a very fair assessment of what's going to happen within the rest of the season. But they're exactly where they should be. Um, the only way I see them improving is if they add depth. And honestly, it seemed like they purposely let go of depth. So who's to say that that's really going to fix for them? I mean, they just have not. Like, I don't know who plays on their bench unit. Bruce Brown left, and he is pretty good. Um, I mean, I honestly, I don't know who they have. So maybe you do, but the Nets are a weird team. Um, Probably overestimated them. Probably did, but maybe they'll prove me wrong this next week. Doubt it. They got to play the Bucks. I know that, and I feel like they're going to get probably killed in Milwaukee, but we'll see about that.
In their big, like their depth at the big man position. They have one person who's listed as a center on their entire roster, but they do have 3 or 4 really solid, in my opinion, power forwards from KD, Claxton, Royce O'Neal, and Ben Simmons. All solid dudes, but Ben Simmons, like you're saying, he really needs to step it up. For that team to be what they want to be, they gave up James freaking Harden for this guy. And we're seeing the numbers James is putting up in Philly right now. And this guy needs to get his head out of his ass and start playing some good basketball. Like back in those early days in Philly when he was really a dog.
Yeah, I don't even know how to describe it. He is just not the same kind of player. It's mainly he seemed way more dominant a few years ago, and for whatever reason, it seems like he is just not imposing himself on the game as he was. So I don't know how he has to be able to get that back, but I mean, that's what he needs to be able to do. I mean, that's easy to say for anybody, but really for him, it seemed like when he was at his best, he physically was imposing himself on the game, grabbing boards, kind of being all over the court, ball constantly running through his hands to other people, setting screens. I haven't watched a ton of Nets basketball this season, but I've looked at their stats, I've looked at scores. Based off of the numbers I've seen, it doesn't seem like he's been doing all of what I sort of outlined made him good. So who knows? I'm gonna have to catch a game. Definitely watch that Milwaukee game. Want to watch another one of them too, and really see what's going on with them because that's a very interesting problem to try to figure out.
And with that, we're going to take a quick break. Welcome back to the Smokin Layups podcast once again. I'm your host, Joey O, here with my co-host, Jack. Now we're on to our Tuesday national TV preview. So we're going to cover the Tuesday games, the Wednesday games, and the Thursday games this week. Starting off with our Tuesday games, the first game is Dallas, favored by 6, at the Pelicans with no Zion and no Brandon Ingram. Jack, what are your thoughts on this one?
I think both teams fully healthy would be a really great game. I think it's still going to be pretty competitive, but I definitely think the Mavs are going to at least be comfortable, if not have a tiny lead throughout majority of the game. And then I see them probably pulling away and winning by 2, maybe an entire 3 possessions at the end. Not having Zion and Ingram is pretty big. I mean, those are the 2 like highest usage rates on the team, besides CJ McCollum. The Mavs, I actually dug into it. They don't give up a lot of rebounds to forwards or centers at all. So, I mean, you think about it, if they don't have Ingram, if they don't have Zion, that's about, I would say, an easy 11 rebounds right there between those 2 that's unaccounted for. If the Mavs can game plan well for Valanciunas, I see it hard for the Pelicans to get many second chance offensive opportunities, while on the opposite side, the Mavs might be able to grab a few more. The Mavs actually average about 10 offensive rebounds per game. I was looking into a lot of their numbers for that point differential bit we were talking about earlier, but it's not great. It's not good at all. but this is a game where it could spike up some. And anytime you see a team grabbing 13 or more offensive rebounds in a game, it's going to definitely help keep them right there to win. So, I mean, even if this thing is competitive within a possession and a half at the last like 2 minutes, 2 minute mark, I really think that the Mavs will pull away. So it's just a tough spot with Zion and Ingram going out hurt. Um, it's going to be really interesting to see where those points come from. You're looking at Herbert. Well, Herbert Jones isn't playing either. So then you're looking at, I know Larry Nance Jr. is a guy coming off the bench. Who's Jackson Hayes? He's there, I think. And then they got another dude, forgetting his name, who's a shooting guard that's actually averaged maybe 13-ish points a game for him.
Trey Murphy.
Yeah, Trey Murphy. He's played well, but the Mavs also don't give up a ton of points to the shooting guard position. So I'm wondering, well, if Trey Murphy is going to have an elevated role, is he going to be ready to face a stingy D against shooting guards? Who knows? It's just very tough from a lot of perspectives for the Pelicans. If they win this game, that will really show me that, I mean, it'll really prove that they have the additional 3 to 4 guys you need coming off the bench in the playoffs to like give you good minutes and provide good numbers. That's where you see teams just lacking. They, as soon as they take out their fifth best player, whoever it is in the playoffs, immediately guys just start getting picked on, and that's how you do it. So if the Pelicans can win tonight, that'll really show me that they got a few guys that'll be guys in the playoffs. Not that if they lose they won't be, but yeah, it's it's Mavs tonight.
100% agree. I think this game is Dallas all the way, especially in light of the injuries. The starting lineup for New Orleans in this game is absolutely paltry. They've got Devontae Graham, CJ McCollum, Trey Murphy, Larry Nance, and Jonas Valanciunas, which really, that lineup really just can't hang with the lineups that the Mavericks can put out there, especially from a height standpoint. Having to start both Devontae Graham and CJ McCollum next to each other, that presents all the same problems that Dame and CJ presented, with much less of an upside. And I see Luka's going to have a big game, I think. And then I would also expect from New Orleans, I could really see Jonas Valanciunas having a relatively big game, especially with Dallas liking to go small. So I bet Booby will put up a lot of points today. But 100%, Mavericks going to win. If this line's at 5.5 or 6, I would be very comfortable taking Dallas with the laying down those points. Our second game of the day today is the reigning champs, Golden State Warriors, visiting the desert and going down to Phoenix. This line is currently at 1.5. Phoenix is a 1.5 point favorite, and basically everyone's healthy for both teams. DiVincenzo and Iguodala are out, and then Ish Wainwright is out for the Suns. So really no game-changing injuries here. To me, this game, I'm probably leaning towards Golden State. They scored 89 points in the first half against Sacramento this weekend, and just an unbelievable display of offense. They seem to be really clicking. Although the Suns also, they beat the Clippers down, but the Clippers are really trying to figure things out, and the Suns had a lot more continuity than them, as well as the fact that they shot the ball a whole lot better. It was an off night for the Clippers. They just couldn't sniff around, get back in it. Devin Booker has been balling, but I do really like the Warriors' ability to guard him. Whether you put, honestly, if I was the Warriors, I would probably put Andrew Wiggins on him a lot, just make his life hell. and then put Clay on Chris Paul because Chris Paul isn't as quick as he used to be, and Clay is big and strong. It really make him have a tough night. Yeah, so that being said, I'm going to take Warriors in this one, even though they are not technically the favorite.
It's going to be a really interesting game. The opposite pace that these two play at is pretty interesting. Warriors are really up tempo, at least have been so far early in the season. The Suns, not so much. Um, so it'll be really interesting to see. Does the slower, maybe more defensive minded team at this point impose its game plan and really keep the tempo how they want it? Or can Golden State really push the Suns to try to play their game? I mean, interesting thing is there are a few guys on the Suns that I feel like can shoot the ball pretty decently. Not Chris Paul right now, but you know, maybe that's something the Warriors are just going to have to pick on, making him shoot the ball. But it's going to be really interesting. I don't know. It's hard for me to get a judge either side because I'm not a huge believer in the Suns, but they have come out playing well so far this season. So, you know, I probably need to separate my personal feelings for the team and then the actual expectations I have for them. They still got Monty. They still got a lot of pretty much the same people they had for the last few seasons when they've been getting all their success. I mean, on the flip side, so the Warriors, but I mean, I understand why this game is at the 1.5 that it is. Honestly, oof, if you made me choose, I'm gonna go with the Warriors too because if they come out shooting well, it's gonna be very hard for the Suns to keep up. And I also don't think the Warriors are gonna blow a 20-point lead like the Mavs did. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Warriors because there's no reason for me to think either team is gonna play poorly. And if both teams play well, then I still think the Warriors are gonna edge them out. So I'm riding the Warriors bus with you.
Our Wednesday games on ESPN, there's a huge slate of games on Wednesday, but there's some pretty good ones on the national TV docket as well. Our first game is Nets at Bucks. We talked about this game earlier. The Bucks are 3.5-point favorites. The Bucks have one of the best point differentials in the league right now, and the Nets have one of the worst point differentials in the league right now. And then if you think about it from roster to roster, we talked about how the Nets really lack a true center, and I can't think of a worse team to play without a true center than a team that features Giannis, Bobby Portis, and Brook Lopez as three of their top six scorers. I think the Bucks will run away with this game, especially because these teams just have that good beef of the awesome playoff series that they had a couple years ago. So the Bucks will be ready to go for this one. Give me Milwaukee and definitely laying those points.
Yeah, I agree. It's really simple to me. Like I said earlier, the Nets are just super top heavy, have no depth. Besides that, they also lack size down low. Not knocking Nick Claxton. I like him, but he can't handle three-headed monster that you said already, Bobby P, Brooke Lopez, and Giannis. There's no way he's just going to be able to handle those guys on his own. And everybody behind him, they're lunch meat already. They're barbecue chicken. They're just going to be eaten up. So I think it's usually not good to just flat out like say these kind of bets, but this is the kind of game where it would be like to get plus money. I think they're gonna hang the line on this not too bad. I feel like you could get plus money on taking like Bucks halftime slash full time, which is them just winning at half and then winning the game outright. I feel like there's great value on that. I think it's probably gonna be plus money. If it comes back as not plus money, then forget what I'm saying. But I feel like they're gonna make these teams closer than they really are. And without Chris Middleton, even without him, the Bucks have the firepower to just run the Nets out of the gym. And plus, what happens if Ben Simmons gets in foul trouble again? Which he probably will. He's fouled out 2 or 3 games already this season. If he gets in foul trouble, they have no plus defenders to guard anybody. So I it's a nightmare situation. It really is.
Yeah. I really can't think of a worse matchup for this Brooklyn team than the Milwaukee Bucks, especially considering the fact you're going to have Drew Holiday guarding Kyrie on the other end, and then you can just throw Giannis at Kevin Durant to make his life hell. This is going to be really tough sledding, and I think that spread should be much bigger, and it likely will get up to 4, 4.5, even 5 as we get closer to game time. The nightcap national TV game on Wednesday is Lakers at Nuggets. These are two teams, really interestingly, that were both kind of our surprise teams that we were surprised to find at the bottom of the barrel in terms of points per game differential. And this is a really interesting matchup. The Nuggets are 6.5-point favorites. I see them winning this game, but also their defense has been so erratic. They've blown people out. They've gotten blown out themselves. They're really hard to predict right now. But I do think that this is probably a bad matchup for the Lakers because for the Nuggets defense to be a problem, the Lakers have to be able to hit shots, and they have just proven this year that they have not been able to hit shots, and they can really just clog the lane against LeBron, AD, and then they'll just let Westbrook shoot as much as he wants and sink that team to the ground. Give me the Nuggets, but I'm not as confident in this one. I don't know if I would take that 6.5 as confidently as I'm taking the 3.5 of the Bucks.
The only way I'd take the Nuggets is with probably like a 2-team tease. I don't know what their money line is, so if you can, I mean, a tease is a parlay, but I would whichever one is better, whichever one gets you better odds. That's what I would take. I wouldn't want to bet their spread at 6 or 6.5 where you said it was, just because right now, like you said, they're being really erratic. If the Lakers prove that they're not going to hit any shots early, I'm afraid the Nuggets might not feel inclined to try to race away from them and might let the Lakers hang around. If you let the home team hang around late on and they have LeBron, I mean, they can win. Like they have a great shot to win, much less cover the spread. But at the same time, I don't trust the Lakers to cover the spread. They can't shoot, like you said. If LeBron or AD gets in foul trouble, then there's one person you have to worry about on the floor. And right now, neither of those guys are good enough to just take over a game. Like physically, I don't know if LeBron can take over a game like he used to be able to do. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. It's always fun when you see him go off for like 15 to I don't know 15 or so points in a row. Like he's a beast, but he hasn't really shown that. He's kind of shown that his age is catching up to him a little bit as far as injuries and all of that. But yeah, it's more to stay away from me. But if I end up betting it, then yeah, I'm probably gonna tease the Nuggets down, get them at like 2.5. I can't remember if you said they're 6 or 6.5. So I'll take a 4-point tease on them. If somehow parlaying them with another money line gets me better odds, then I'll do that. But I'm not sure that would be the case. So that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, that game, honestly, when ESPN selected that as their nightcap or their national TV of all the West Coast games, I think they had higher expectations of both of these teams than how they performed so far, and hopefully we end up getting a really good game on Wednesday night because I will certainly be up watching it. I just don't know if I will be betting on it. On to Thursday. So I have not been able to find these lines yet, but I kind of set some lines for myself just so we have something to work with. So we have Mavericks at the Nets. This will be a back-to-back for the Nets. And so for that reason, I said the Mavericks, I just set the line at 4, likely to be even higher towards the Mavs. I think, once again, the Mavs have the best point differential in the league right now. The Nets have one of the worst. I think this is a terrible matchup. Once again, the Mavericks are so big at the guard position. They present such a problem for defenses that this game will be a real problem. And I see the Mavericks going into Brooklyn and kind of laying the wood. And this, after beating the Pelicans, and then if they can embarrass the Nets as well, I think they will really put their stamp down as we are here to compete this year. I was ready for the Mavericks to compete last year, especially after they beat Phoenix before Golden State kind of handled them. But their roster this year is just better. You know, their shortest guy that they really play is like Dinwiddie. They have a huge lineup. I think that this team is so fun. They've got a good coach, great defense. I see them going into Brooklyn, taking care of business on Thursday night.
Yeah, it's a really tough spot for Brooklyn. They don't have an easy beginning to the season. They're not making it easier on themselves either. But I mean, yeah, I'm not going to dive too deep into it. We might have another podcast by then, so maybe I'll have a few more numbers. But it just there's no reason they should win. They haven't been playing as well. Like I said, the Mavs, while they don't get a ton of offensive rebounds, they don't give up a lot of rebounds to the center and forward position, anyways. So, you know, if you take it, the points come from KD and Kyrie, and then partially Seth Curry. So if you're taking away the one thing that your forwards and centers are doing for you, which is grabbing bounds and setting screens, and I get grabbing rebounds doesn't affect setting screens, but it's just as a whole, the effectiveness of part of like the 5 people you have on the court at all times will be diminished. And then if once again Ben Simmons gets into foul trouble, you're down your best defender. I mean, Kyrie has had more games good than bad, but I don't know. He maybe he lays a dud, and that team can't afford for either him or KD to not score less, or I guess that both of them have to score 20 or more a night, really 25 in my mind. But if one of them scores less than 20, they are toast. Not saying that that's going to happen, but geez, like the Mavs literally have nothing like I can think of to say, oh, well, maybe this will happen, or watch out for this, or this is a bad matchup. No, like it, not saying it's like taking, candy from a baby, but if the Mavs come in focused, if they come up with a good game plan, which they should, they're going to handle business. It doesn't matter if it's home or away, off a day of rest or two. I don't see why they would ever lose to Brooklyn at this point.
Yeah, this Dallas team, like I said, they're on a warpath. If not for that collapse against Phoenix, we wouldn't even be talking about the Nets like they have a chance in this game. And I think that is how this game will go. Go Mavs once again. The final game for our preview this week is the Thursday nightcap. And we have the Miami Heat traveling to San Francisco to take on the Warriors. Once again, could not find a line on this game, but I set our line to work it and talk through at 4.5. This likely could get it's a 6.5, but we shall see because obviously the Warriors are playing tonight. We'll see how that will affect things. To me, I was picking the Warriors over the Suns. I think the Warriors are better than the Suns, but I think the Suns are better than the Heat. I do not think this Miami team is very good. They are a team that their best player is significantly worse in the regular season than he is in the playoffs. And their maybe most talented, most unicorn guy of Bam Adebayo, he just really has not been delivering. He has not been stepping up, at least offensively, to the level that he really needs to for this team to stay relevant as some of these older guys continue to age and take a little bit of a step back. This is ready to be Bam's team, and Bam does not seem to be stepping up and taking on this role. That being said, this Warriors team, they are fast, they can shoot, they can play good defense. I just do not see the Heat being able to keep up either in a scoring pace or a literal foot race with this Warriors team on Thursday night.
I mean, I don't like the Heat. Like you said, their best player, Jimmy Butler, is far more valuable in the playoffs than the regular season. Kyle Lowry is not the same offensive force he was. It seems like a lot of what is well, I wouldn't say it seems like a lot. I haven't seen a lot, but I did watch their game the other night against the Celtics. They relied a lot on Tyler Hero to create something. And I mean, sixth man of the year, yeah, he can shoot. He's better than I'm acting. But to me, if you're making Tyler Hero try to create the shots for himself, set up other people, that's not too good. I agree with you. Bam is this kind of unicorn guy, but I don't know. I don't know what his jump shot looks like at this point. He always kills the Celtics, so I'm not going to worry about that. I mean, he loves playing against us. But besides us, I don't know if he's been knocking down mid range. I don't know if he's been really bodying people down low. I'm not too sure. The Heat just don't seem as good as they have in the past. The Warriors, on the other hand, being at home, the Heat going all the way from Miami to the West Coast, it's probably going to be a pretty difficult spot for them. I'll say this: if the Warriors lose tonight, then I think they follow up their loss with a win against the Heat. If the Heat somehow beat the Warriors on Thursday, I'm assuming that's going to be the first game of either a West Coast trip for them, or they're going to travel back across via West or down towards like Texas and catch one or two games on the way home. Either way, the second game Miami plays after the game after the Warriors, it's going to be another away game. I'm fairly certain. I'll double check that right now. It's why not? But if it is, that's another fantastic spot to smack against the Heat. Okay, so yeah, here we go. The Heat, pull up their schedule right here.
I've got it pulled up.
Yeah,
so
me.
on tomorrow night, Wednesday night, they are at Portland, and I would not be confident in the Heat in that game. Portland might reach 5-0 before our very eyes. And then after running around with Portland all night and a very late game, they get to play. Then they get to play the Warriors, and then on Saturday after that, they're at Sacramento. So that is going to be a lot of running for them, and I would like to fade them the whole road trip.
Yes, put it out here right now. That's one of the best things to do from a basketball standpoint. You get a West Coast team going to the East Coast, they play multiple games because they're not going to be sending them back and forth. That's terrible travel. That's terrible planning. Same thing, East Coast going to West Coast. They're going to play multiple games. These teams that are not been good, teams that aren't good on the road in general, man, these are fantastic spots to fade them because even if they win like one, they're probably going to lose two of these three games, these next three on the West, out West. And it's just going to, two out of three, 66%. So that's great. That's winning bets right there. But they could easily go 0-3 and not cover a single spread. I could really see it.
I couldn't agree more. The Heat, I think, are a team that kind of missed their window, and the sun is setting on this squad. They probably need to change some things. I don't like that they recently paid Tyler Hero. I think they committed to the wrong core. I don't think this core is good
Oh
enough.
yeah, they also paid Duncan Robinson, and now they're trying to ship him off. Nobody wants that guy's contract. The one thing he could do is shoot. What happened to that? It's gone. He lost it. Right now, Duncan's out trying to find his shot. He's not even on the floor. Who is going to take the contract from them? You're right. Like, they're in trouble. They need to win this year because they got aging assets. Their best one right now is Tyler Hero, and can't stand him. So I'm not even going to speculate what good things could come from him going somewhere else. But like once again, if Tyler Hero is the brightest offensive spot you have, the best asset you have moving forward, not good.
I would disagree with you slightly there, and I think Bam is their best asset. Bam is only 25 years old, and Tyler Hero is only 3 years younger than Bam. So at this point, if I'm an NBA GM, I would much rather have Bam Adebayo on my team than a guy like Tyler Hero, who I feel like Tyler Hero's his whole game. You can find guys like that relatively easy for a lot cheaper.
Hey, maybe so. I'm not trying to defend the guy, but six man of the year. I don't know if Bam has an accolade like that to his name yet.
Yeah, I believe Bam has been on an all defense team, maybe not first team, but he has definitely been in those conversations before. And I think six man of the year means best person who doesn't start, and that just disqualifies a bunch of the best players in the league from that automatically.
You make a good point. I'm gonna stop trying to argue in defense of Tyler Hero because I just won't do it.
Well, that being said, thank you again to everyone for listening all the way through. This has been the Smoking Layups podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Joey O, my boy Jack.
Peace.
Smokin' Layups podcast is a Bread and Circus Sports production. Check us out on Instagram at Bread and Circus Sports and at breadandcircussports.com.